Welcome to Retiring Well. We have a great show lined up for you this week. We're going to be diving into rental income in today's hot real estate market. What does that look like for you and how it may affect your retirement? Limit and stop orders. Do you have those, or maybe you should have those? The US dollar index. How does our currency compare to all the other things out there? And finally, you're not going to want to miss Medicare and Medigap. What are the different paths you can take when you get to that magical 65 age? Stay tuned. You're not going to want to miss any of these topics.
Retiring Well, brought to you by Centennial Wealth Advisory, financial advisors specializing in retirement planning and serving all of Northern Michigan. Retiring Well, helping you plan for a successful and comfortable retirement. Retiring Well, plan to retire well.
In this segment, I want to talk to you about rental income. Okay, very, very important. It can be a valuable part of a retirement plan too, as I'll explain. First of all, when you're looking at rental property and you want to know if it'll be good rental income, you're going to have to know some numbers. First of all, you're going to have to calculate what you think is going to be the rent you're going to receive. Okay, so you get a good idea how much rent you can charge, and then you want to get an idea what costs are you going to have to incur: taxes, insurance, whether you pass the utilities on or not. What are those costs going to be? Because what you want to get to is what's called the net benefit. That'd be your gross rental income after all your expenses, and what am I going to get as a net benefit in rent? Okay. The next thing you want to do is, what's the amount you're going to be paying for this property, or what if you already own it, what is the fair market value of that property? Okay, so if I get that net rent benefit and make that a yearly number, and then I divide that by the fair market value or purchase price of the rental property I'm trying to purchase, now what you're going to get is a rate of return. Okay, so let's say you get a rate of return of, let's say it ends up being 7-8%. Well, you're going to look at that's going to be very, very good rate of return, right? How much risk do I got to take in the market just to get maybe that same number? So that's going to be valuable to know. So when you're looking at rental property, please look at it first that way. The other thing you get with rental property is, if it gives you a good rate of return, we're not even factoring in appreciation. If that property goes up in value, you can add that to your rate of return. So let's just assume you say 1%, 2%, appreciation. Now that 7% is 8-9%. So that's a good number to know. The other nice thing about rentals is you get to depreciate them, over a number of years. Typically, I'll find with rental property that depreciation is enough to offset the net rent. So in a lot of cases, you're paying very little or no taxes on that income as you own it. Now, the bad thing about depreciation is, when you depreciate it from a tax standpoint, now your basis is lower, and later on when you sell it, you've got this huge capital gain, because now all that depreciation has to be recaptured as basically income. But if you have that rental property and you pass it on as an inheritance, guess what? They get stepped up basis on it, and then no tax ever had to be paid on it. The other nice thing about rental income is it's inflationary. You get to raise rent, so as costs go up, you get to raise the rent. So if you've got it as a retirement instrument, it's going to be a good income source for a long, long time. Now, rentals can be a headache. You can pass that headache on to a manager too. Typically, they'll take anywhere from 15-20%, but if you don't want that headache, could be valuable. Hopefully you found this segment valuable. If you have any questions about this, give me a call.
Wow, what a great topic Larry brought up there with rental income and real estate. Boy, I'm sure you're sitting out there and you or know somebody that's been either positively or negatively impacted by this crazy real estate market out there that we're dealing right now. But rental income, especially as a retiree, something some of you may have is those hard assets, John, and there's so many different ways it can be approached, but it's really vital that it's done properly.
Yeah, that's for sure, Art, and it's something that I grew up here in Traverse City, and parents have owned rental properties since the 70s, and so now my wife and I have gotten into rental properties and have had our share of the horror stories that I'm sure you can imagine, but also the benefits of it. But the big thing that we notice is when you get to that retirement stage, you want to eliminate as much debt from your portfolio as possible. So paying down your primary residence, and if you're either looking at getting into rental properties or already own them, trying to have those properties debt-free to provide as much income for you in retirement planning is going to be vital for you. Along with that, the thing that I consider is that potential for appreciation on the property. So, there's constantly going to be upkeep and work that needs to be done, so you have to take that into consideration and what those potential expenses might look like, and whether that's something you're willing to take on yourself or if you're going to hire that out to others. So.
Absolutely, John. And you brought up, I think, a great point with cash flow. You think of retirement, and it's all about income. That's going to provide your lifestyle. And here at Centennial Wealth Advisory, we focus so much on retirement planning, building income plan, investment plans, tax plan. How does, if you have rental properties, what does that look like from a taxation standpoint, capital gains? All of those various aspects out there are key in your plan.
Yeah, that's for sure. And so when you're looking at that overall retirement plan, not just factoring hey, great, I own another property and it should make money, you have to be looking at all those intricate details and factoring in ultimately, is it going to provide an additional cash flow that's a benefit to you? So if you're considering that as part of your overall retirement plan or have other questions about income planning, we'd love that opportunity to sit down and chat with you about that. But stay tuned, as we're going to be diving into limit and stop orders and what that might look like for your portfolio.
Centennial Wealth Advisory is a proud sponsor of the Traverse City St. Francis Gladiators football team.
When does a Roth IRA conversion strategy make sense? Check out our free instant download of the Wealth Report at sen-wealth.com regarding Roth IRA conversions to help you plan to retire well. Find out what the Roth IRA conversion rules are and what scenarios are beneficial from a tax perspective. To receive this instant download, simply visit sen-wealth.com, scroll down, and click Download Now to receive your copy of the Wealth Report. Simply visit sen-wealth.com.
Professional golfers have a game plan. Knowing where to attack the golf course is vital, and avoiding the hazards is key. As you can see, we aren't professional golfers. But at Northern Michigan's Centennial Wealth Advisory, we are professional financial advisors. And just like a good golfer, we have a game plan, a holistic approach for your financial future, using income planning, tax planning, estate planning, wealth management, and healthcare planning to help you plan to retire well. We have lived in Northern Michigan all our lives, and we have offices in Traverse City, Gaylord, Petoskey, and Cadillac. Give Centennial Wealth Advisory a call or visit us at sen-wealth.com and let us help you plan to retire well.
Hi, listen, in this segment I want to talk to you about what's called limit orders and stop orders. Now, what these are orders that you're able to set with stocks that'll allow that stock to be sold or bought in either direction. Okay, now there's a difference between these two. These can be kind of complex, but I'll try to keep it simple. First of all, a limit order is where you get to set the minimum or maximum amount. Okay, so if you have a stock, selling right now at $100 a share, but you want it to be sold if it reaches a price of, let's say, $102 a share, then you can actually set that dollar amount. Okay, so what that does is that acts like instructions to the broker to, if it reaches that price, to sell it off at that price if there's a willing buyer. Now a stop order is a little bit different. This is where you set a trigger. Okay, so same thing. Let's say you have a stock at $100 and you set a stop order at $102. Okay, so if it reaches $102 or more, then as soon as it hits that $102, it creates a trigger, and now that execution is out at the market. So whatever the price is, that you can get it at market. Now it could have run up higher. The trigger is at 102, but by the time the stock is sold off, maybe it was 103, 104. Now it happens the opposite on the other side too, when you're trying to buy or sell. So anyway, the difference when a limit order is done is that a limit order can be seen by everybody else. Okay, so that $100, that $102 that you're willing to pay out, that's out there for everybody to see. With a stop order, it's not. Nobody sees that trigger. On a limit order, it can be partially some of the stock sold or not at all, or any of it. So it can be partially or fully done. But you may not. It doesn't guarantee that that all of those shares are going to be executed. That could be a disadvantage. With a stop order, it's all going to be filled. You don't have to worry about that. Now, when you're looking at stop orders, you can do it as a dollar amount. You can do that 102, or you can do it as a percentage, in either direction, okay? You got to be careful with stop orders, and only because if you create a trigger, if there's a lot of volatility, maybe it triggers and gets sold off when you didn't want it to. That can happen. Limit orders tend to cost more because there's somebody that actually has to execute the trade, so you got that. You can have trailing stop losses as a percentage. Let's say I buy a stock and I want to put a trailing stop loss of 25% on it. That means as it runs up, that 25% is always applying. So that can be advantageous. So there's a number of reasons why you want to do these. Let's say you have a large concentration in one stock. Well, maybe you want to protect yourself because you don't have diversification. You might do that. Maybe you're speculating on a stock. Maybe you want to say, hey, I'm going to take a chance on this stock, but if it doesn't do bad, or if it does do bad, I've got a stop loss on it so I can cover my losses. Maybe I've taken a win on a stock, think it's going to run up even more, but I want to put a bottom to it just in case. Folks, these can be very valuable. If you're somebody that can use that, or if you have a large concentration and want to see how to protect yourself, give us a call.
Hi, my name is Jack Klunder, and I am a financial advisor with Centennial Wealth Advisory. I work out of our Cadillac office, and we specialize in retirement planning. We take a very holistic approach. We start with investments and see how you're situated there. We do wealth management. We do income planning. We do tax planning, any kind of healthcare issues or needs that you might have for insurance. And then we talk about what your legacy plan might be. So if you are nearing or in retirement and you have questions that you want to go over, please give the number on the screen a call, and we can have and set up a free, no obligation consultation.
If you are retired or soon to be retired, let us help you plan to retire well. Centennial Wealth Advisory specializes in retirement planning and has offices in Traverse City, Cadillac, Petoskey, and Gaylord. We'll never pressure anyone to become a client. Our goal is to inform and educate. Simply attend one of our live events or schedule a meeting at one of our Northern Michigan office locations for a free, no obligation retirement review.
I want to talk to you about the dollar index. Now, this is an index that was created in 1973. What they basically did is took our currency, compared it with the other world currencies, and they baselined it at 100. And then we've been basically tracking it ever since. Now, sometimes it can be up, sometimes it's down. I think at the end of 2019, it was somewhere around 96, 97. What was that saying? Basically saying that our currency relative to the other world currencies was just about the same as it was back in 1973. Now, why is this something that we follow? First of all, when we got a strong dollar, which should be a good thing, right? But when we have a strong dollar, it makes our exports more costly, which hurts our manufacturing. All right, now how's this work, you say? Well, if you've ever traveled abroad, maybe it's Mexico, maybe it's Canada, you'll notice that if our currency relative to that currency, that foreign country you're entering into is stronger or better than their currency, then you get great purchasing power because you get bigger bang for your buck per se, and it makes what you're buying less money. So that's a good thing when you got a strong dollar and you're spending it abroad. But what it does, a strong dollar, like I said, is makes our exports more costly. You'll find if the other currency from the foreign country that's importing goods, they have a competitive advantage because their goods coming into our country are now less expensive. All right, so this again hurts our manufacturing. Now manufacturing makes up a good 10% of our GDP, so this is something that we want to follow very, very carefully. Now, the other thing that you want to pay attention to when we're looking at the dollar index and why we care about how strong the dollar is all commodities are traded in U.S. dollars. So you'll find that when the dollar is starting to weaken, commodity prices will rise. This is something we definitely want to pay attention to. Now, you'll hear a lot of news, about China and the trade war we find ourselves in and how they're manipulating their currency. That's because Chinese government is in a lot of the public-private enterprises in the country. So they also have the ability to manipulate their own currency. So it gives them a highly competitive advantage when they can play games with their own currency, bringing it down, making their imports into our country less expensive. It kind of gives them a competitive advantage that we don't like them to have. So hopefully this kind of gives you an idea why this is something that we want to follow, why we want to pay attention to it. Hopefully you found some value in it.
Great information there, especially when we're talking about those limit and stop orders. And Art, here's what comes to my mind when thinking of that is with, there was a movie I think a couple years ago called Free Solo, and this was this crazy rock climber that was going up into the mountains and essentially did not have a harness or anything there to protect him. And so I think of those rock climbers, or you think of somebody that's walking a tightrope across the mountains and everything. Wouldn't it be nice to maybe have like some type of security within that and have something attached to you so that if you do start to fall, okay, there's going to be some type of line or protective gear that'll help protect you from falling all the way. And essentially, that's what these limit and stop orders act as when you're talking about if you have a certain stock and you want to say, okay, what if the market takes a major hit and you're seeing your stock price drop in value, then you can set these certain orders in place so that essentially that stock will be sold if it reaches a certain point. So providing some type of protection in a way to not see it drop all the way, which is definitely something you want to be careful of, especially when it comes to your retirement planning.
Absolutely, John. Always want to have a little cushion on the landing there or something like that if something goes sideways or wrong on you. But, just like that, we think about like different indices and stuff too. Larry talked about, U.S. dollar index, and boy, what another current topic on a lot of people's mind with all the printing of money lately. And what is that? How is it impacting you? And how is it impacting the greater country and that? Obviously with imports and exports and so much going on internationally, the rise and fall of the dollar has either some positive or negative impacts on that. And it's something just to really be mindful of, is just like I'm sure you are when you're, looking at your pocketbook and you're going to buy groceries and realizing that, boy, my $20 bag of groceries might now be $25 or whatever that may be. And that really plays a role in the overall economy and how that can affect things. We want our exports to be attractive, but we also don't want to pay too much for imports, and when our dollar is rising and falling, it can really play havoc on that.
Yeah, although I know for you, Art, with 4 kids, I don't think the $20 or $25 bag of groceries gets you too far. But yeah, if you're gathering anything from this and you have some different questions that are top of mind, we're always happy to sit down with you for a no-cost, no-obligation visit. But stay tuned as we're going to be diving into Medicare and Medigap and what that might mean for your health insurance plan.
Are you nearing retirement or in retirement? Have you had your portfolio just looked at or have a second opinion on that portfolio recently, Centennial Wealth is a full-service advisory firm, and we have multiple locations in northern Michigan. I'm in the Gaylord office primarily. The office is right downtown Gaylord. Also up in the Petoskey office as well. That office is right off of 31. I'd love to hear your story. I'd love to sit down and chat, and it's a free, no obligation consultation, so just call the number on the screen.
Professional quarterbacks have a game plan. Passing the ball with power and accuracy is vital, and good communication within the team is key. As you can see, we aren't professional quarterbacks, but at Northern Michigan Centennial Wealth Advisory, we are professional financial advisors. And just like a good quarterback, we have a game plan, a holistic approach for your financial future. Using income planning, tax planning, estate planning, wealth management, and healthcare planning to help you plan to retire well. We have lived in Northern Michigan all our lives, and we have offices in Traverse City, Gaylord, Petoskey, and Cadillac. Give Centennial Wealth Advisory a call or visit us at cen-wealth.com and let us help you plan to retire well.
Centennial Wealth Advisory is a proud sponsor of the Traverse City St. Francis Gladiators football team.
All right, in this segment we want to talk about Medicare. Now, believe it or not, when you turn age 65, the whole world knows about it. And in that year, you're going to get inundated with all kinds of mail. You may even have people showing up at your doorstep to talk about Medicare. But what is happening here? Well, with Medicare, you qualify at age 65, and you get what's called Part A and Part B. Now, Part A is simply hospitalization coverage. Part B is outpatient coverage. Now, you have to understand with Medicare, it's going to cover about 80% of the costs. But there's gaps in the coverage. We'll call that just, the 20%. And if I want to get those gaps covered, I'm going to have what's called a supplemental plan. Okay, something that's just going to come alongside Medicare Part A and B, and it's going to fill all those gaps so that I can have closer to 100% coverage, okay? Now, what a lot of people don't understand is there's two different routes you can go. Okay, one route you can go for supplemental insurance is what we call the Medigap route. Okay, now this is government regulated. There's a number of different plans. They go from A to Z. And some are in force, some are not in force, some come and go. But you have to understand with all these plans, they're all regulated. So for example, if I have a Medigap Plan K, then that's going to be the same for everybody. There's going to be no difference. So it's a lot simpler in that regard because I know what my coverage is going to be. Now, one of the disadvantages to having a Medigap plan is that I have to get what's called prescription drug, or what they call Part D, has to be a separate plan. Okay, it's not included in my Medigap plan. The other thing that's not going to be included in my Medigap plan is maybe dental insurance. If that's something I want, then that's going to have to be a different plan. Now, one of the other disadvantages with a Medigap plan is although they're all regulated, they have to be the same. No insurance company has to charge the same price. So this is something that on a periodic basis you're going to want to get shopped, because if I've got Part K, let's say I got a Medigap Plan K with one insurance company, but with another insurance company, the same exact plan might be cheaper, then I'm going to want to know that, right? So a lot of people, they get their plan, and then they never look at it again. And this is really something that, you know, every so often should be shopped. No different than your home insurance or your car insurance, to see if maybe you can get a cheaper amount. Now here at Centennial Wealth, we actually do this for our clients. So, you know, they'll come in with their plan, we'll shop it for them, we'll show them where the best rates are. So if that's somebody like you and you haven't had somebody look at that in a while, then you're going to want to give us a call. Now, the other route you can go is what's called the Advantage Plan route. Okay? Now again, this is just supplemental insurance. Now why they call them an Advantage Plan is simply this. It has all of these. It has eye and dental, it has prescription, all rolled into one plan. But the disadvantage is it's not regulated. They don't have to be the same. So I can have one Advantage Plan with one insurance company and have another one with another insurance company, and they're going to be completely different. This kind of goes back to when we used to have to shop our health insurance, right? You know, Blue Cross's plan might not be the same as Priority's. And so we had to compare those plans to see, not only from a cost standpoint, but we had to see what the coverage was to see which one kind of made the best sense for us. So you got these two different ways to go, and what's best for you is going to be determined on what kind of coverage you want. You know, if you're going to be a traveler, you're going to be somebody maybe traveling around, and you want out of state health insurance coverage, maybe another doctor's plan. Then depending on what route you go, that could be a big difference. What if I'm somebody that travels out of country? You know, what kind of a plan do I want that might cover that? So a lot of it is going to be based on your lifestyle, but it's something that you want to be able to check into. So I encourage you, if you're somebody that's got a plan out there, hasn't been looked at in some time, and you think maybe you might be somebody that might be able to save some dollars, then give us a call. We'd be glad to give you a quote.
Wow, Medicare. You know, Larry really went down a rabbit hole on that one there with all those things. You know, maybe, John, maybe one of the most talked about things as people are approaching 65 and in that of all that, you know, if you've already turned 65 or nearing, you're probably getting flooded in the mail with all these various advertisements and promotions wanting you to talk to their agent or whatever that may be. You know, the one thing that I have is, you know, I don't know if you're aware, but here at Centennial Wealth Advisory, we've partnered with folks, and we have right on site here folks that can meet with you, and they're independent agents. And it seems like to me that's what really is nice, is you want to be educated on all your options. As Larry explained, there's kind of two distinctive paths you can go down, and all the various advantages and disadvantages to those. Like with just investing, I don't think there's one silver bullet that's going to be the perfect solution, but you know what? Maybe for you, you can help identify what that best is, and it's really key to how does that plan into your retirement.
Yeah, so true, Art, and that's where we usually encourage folks to reach out to our team, you know, within about 2-3 months prior to turning 65. And one of the biggest questions that we hear is, well, what is this going to cost me? And that's where it's so vital to get a better understanding of what that looks like when it plays into your overall budget, and factoring that of figuring out a long-term income plan. Because if you don't know what those expenses are going to look like for you, how do you really plan for that? And again, I just strongly encourage you, when you're a few months away from 65, it's worth sitting down with a qualified individual to help you just sort of map that out and understand the advantages and disadvantages of the different plans that are ultimately available to you.
Absolutely. And so if you're sitting out there and you're coming up on 65, or even if you're already there and you're on Medicare, you do understand that you can review these options and potentially look at replacing or changing, but just it's important to know your options. So I hope you enjoyed the show this week and you took away a lot of great information. As always, we'd love to sit down with you, review your retirement plan, give you a second opinion. No obligation, no cost for that to sit down with any of us in our Traverse City, Cadillac, Gaylord, or Petoskey offices, or learn more about us at sen-wealth.com. Have a great week, and we'll see you back here again next week.